Hello and welcome back. Today's going to be a candid conversation, and I will just be talking without notes and kind of sharing about where I'm at today. So, I've been wanting to talk to you guys about the latest plant medicine that has come into my life, which is microdosing psilocybin mushrooms. And every time that I think of talking about this, there are so many things that come up with it that I feel like this episode isn't going to be about that solely, because there are so many amazing videos out there already that talk about how to do this. And I took a course on it too, so I will link them all below. And I think that's, part of the process to understand if this is something that is calling you. But what feels for me, what I am here to talk about, is kind of linked to last week and using our senses to understand what is calling us, right? And what has happened for me over the last, I feel like it's really been since December, and it all started with the Bach flowers or the flower essences, and like hearing the call to understand that each of these plants are here for a specific reason. And I want to talk more about what does that call feel like, because I think in our culture, our minds go out and search things, and I think that's okay. I mean, I will do that too from time to time, is that like a thread of energy comes in around a plant medicine and I am piqued, my interest is piqued, so then I start looking into it. But actually, I mean, now that I think about it, like let's say, so the first thing was the flower essences, and that came via Lorena from the Soul Tribe podcast. She did a reading for me. And I think I've talked about this before. It was like a week into taking the blend that I had with her that I started to hear myself more, and it felt like all the things that were holding me back at that time kind of started to ease up a bit. And at that time, it was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear around being seen, a lot of fear about putting myself out there. And at that time, it was creating a website. But I remember that within a week of taking the blend, I started to, it's like, get out of my mind space to allow the energy to flow that was already there ready to flow, but I was like, my mind was holding it back in fear state. And then after that, I have talked about this before, that Hape came into my life. And again, it had been in my circle and I had been around it before, but I hadn't been always like, oh no, it's not for me, right? Well, after being on the flower essences, I realized that this medicine of the Hape is, I don't know why, but it felt like it was time to embrace it. And it was through that communing, and I did a 21-day dieta with that medicine. And it literally showed me how to be in my own body, because I'm a projector. I'm really extremely open. And I have always taken in other people's energy so much that I don't think before I tried Hape, I don't think I knew what my own energy felt like. And that's the truth. And the first time that I experienced Hape in my meditation, I realized and I've talked about this, all of the energy threads that I am constantly communicating with people with, they came back into my center, and then I grounded. And it felt like, oh, this is who I am supposed to be in this vessel, instead of constantly being out and about feeling out others. And it really helped me to understand what my set point is. I guess that's the best way to put it. But I think the middle of December is when Hape was introduced into my life. And then in January was when I realized that ayahuasca was calling, and I scheduled a retreat for March. So from December until March, I would say I was practicing with hape every few days after I did that first dieta. And I started to realize that I only want to do hape when I'm in nature or when I am like going by myself and I'm in my own energy and I want to ground deeply into that meditation. So if I'm not able to go out to the cliffs and I'm just at home, I don't do the practice, because for me it feels so sacred that I want to honor what it is and what the medicine is and why is it brought into our lives. Now, I know not everyone can go into nature all the time, and I think you have to tune into your own practice with that if you're doing that, but it's really listening to what the medicine is telling you. And I know this is kind of correlating to the episode last week, is using your senses to understand, is a medicine truly calling you, or is it your mind's interest that is calling you? So when people say that when the medicines are ready for you, they come to you, what that means is that your vibration set point is either at the place of communicating with the plant medicine's vibration, and it sees that it can help you get past something or illuminate something in you that you're ready to see, right? Because if you aren't ready, you can go into these ceremonies and experience these medicines and not have an experience. So when I say that a medicine is calling me, it's like I can't escape it. It feels like the threads just are coming in a way that is so direct that it's like, okay, I see you, I see you, and it's time. Like when I came back from Costa Rica after my first ayahuasca ceremony, and I realized like, oh, wait a second, it's always been here, and I've always had someone that I could do these ceremonies with locally, but I wasn't ready. And it wasn't until I communed with her in Costa Rica that I realized like she's always been my ally, and it's always been here waiting for me to get to that set point of the vibration where I was ready to receive her medicine. And then it's hard not to go through judgment in these processes, because I have never been someone that relies on any substance. Like I've never been a drinker. I think I've talked about that. I've tried, and I have, and I've talked about trying the marijuana gummies, but I don't feel like I've never had an addictive personality where I routinely do anything. And I have had to kind of dig deep in myself and ask, like, I definitely know it's my higher self guiding me towards these medicines, and I feel it on that level. And when I say that, it's like a knowing that is deeper than the mind can ever grasp, because the mind is the questions and the busy mind, the busy, let's research, let's figure it out, let's find a place. Like that would be the mind. When it comes directly for you, it's a like vibration. So I can even go back and say, when the vaccine came for me, that's the similar situation of, I didn't search it out. It came to me, and I then had to understand, why is it calling me? And like really tuning into, am I ready to commune with that? So it's the same with the plant medicines. It's like, when you're really surrendered, I think that's the word, surrendered into not wanting to have the experience for the experience sake, or that it will progress you in your awakening, but literally just being open to what, let's say if it's ayahuasca, wants to show you in that time, in that space in your life. You let go of all expectations, and I feel like it's in that letting go of what is this in my life for, that then the magic happens. And so since coming back from Costa Rica and my first ayahuasca experience in March, as you guys know, I have had 2 more ceremonies. So I've had a total of 6, because there's 2 per session, or like they do usually 2 at a time, like one night and then the next night. And so it's 2, so total of 6. And I feel like this cadence of, it feels like it's every 2 months. It's coming in every 2 months, and it's not, again, it's weird. It's not like I'm planning it, but it's planning me. And I have like realized that in this life that ayahuasca is one of my main teachers. So what does that mean for me with the other substances of hape? I found that I had brought hape with me to Costa Rica, and I did do it prior to the first ceremony. And then really since then, I haven't felt called. Now, that's not to say I'm not doing it, because I do commune with the Soul Tribe group or the energy group, and we do that practice together to ground the energy. But I feel it more as like a ritualistic experience with that group versus needing it in my meditations or needing it in my experience. And so I don't feel called to it. And I had a conversation with my shaman this week about it, and she wanted to discuss and tell me how she's had many friends that over abused hape. You know, it has nicotine in it, and it to the point where they were doing it 2 and 3 times a day. And she said, you know, I've seen people go through, you know, extreme pain because of that, and then have to go through the withdrawals of it. And I was explaining to her, you know, it's interesting that you say that, because the moment that I started working with ayahuasca, I don't feel that call anymore. I feel like I know who I am grounded. I know that vibrational set point. So when I'm not there, I know I'm not there. But I can also appreciate that I don't necessarily need the medicine of hape to get me back to that set point. Because once you understand your energy, you're not at the mercy of others. You become like your own protected source, and you can then feel the moment that something is coming at you that doesn't feel like it is yours. Like for me, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's not mine, and I'm not taking it on. And that can be down to like a headache. It can be a thought pattern that comes in. It can be someone else saying something that triggers me. If I'm in my like balanced state of being, I can see it. Now, I'm not perfect, and I definitely have gotten triggered by things that then, you know, minutes later I realize like, holy shit, that was my issue, not theirs. And it's happened twice in the last few months, and it's been around communing with ayahuasca. And I had to really like, first, you know, of course I'm on the defense and thinking that it's the person's fault the first time. And then the second time it came up, well, even though I was projecting it as the other person's issue, I knew like, well, I'm being triggered, so I know it's my fault. And the problem with that one was I had this person on a pedestal of being more spiritually awakened than I am. And I had thought that, you know, she understood things on a much deeper level even than me. And when her personality, you know, as we all have, showed up, I was just shocked, because I thought she was kind of over that part of herself. But again, there's my judgment on her, which is clearly my issue. So that was the first time. And then it happened again. And the second time it was another person, another friend of mine, and wanting his wife to come to ceremony. And God, I just felt like every part of me got so, I don't know the word, protective of the ceremonies, of the shaman, of everybody else that would be in that group with them. And I felt like, if you don't come to this being called, my ego was looking at it like it's pure ego. Like it's pure, I want an experience. I want to get high. I want to know what people are talking about. Because what happened with him is that he was in the ceremony that I did last, and he had the best experience of his life. Well, then he goes home and talks to his wife about it, and now she wants the best experience of her life. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't work like that. It literally is a different experience in every single ceremony, and every single person has a totally different experience. So anyways, my ego got like I don't think that this is something that you should push on her. And I don't think that she probably would even have an experience because she's not on the spiritual path. And I just was like, all of a sudden, like verbal diarrhea of why I didn't think she was being called to this medicine. And I get off the phone with him and I was talking to Richard and I'm like, I'm really annoyed by him that he would put this in my, my space. And almost like the moment that I said that, I realized, oh, it's my stuff. It's totally my stuff. And so then I thankfully caught it quick enough. I got on the phone and called him back and I told him all of that, was my ego. It was my stuff coming up, Now, why have I become so protective of this medicine? It's because it's literally, for me, become my teacher. Like I've talked about wanting someone that could be a teacher for me in this next, part of my journey. And, we always are on the journey. And I think people come in at the times that they're needed. But it seems that in this part of my journey, ayahuasca has become my teacher. And what I know in myself is that it's the letting go of my ego in the ceremonies that then I can actually learn directly from my higher self. And that is why I am drawn to it, or why it's vibrationally being called to me, is that my higher self wants to be able to commune with me directly. And I feel that, I've talked about not having spirit guides and that it feels like it's just directly coming from my higher self. And I know that, like when the closer you become and are in alignment with your, I guess, soul purpose, and you listen every day to that part of yourself, certain things. And yeah, this has been something that I've known. Well, so I then was focusing just on having the experiences with ayahuasca and letting that be the thing. And then out of nowhere comes in microdosing psilocybin. And when I say out of nowhere, I mean, I had not been researching or, curious in any way, because, I feel like just so super blessed to have even the experiences that I have so far. So it came up in conversation with a friend of mine, and it was like, this is interesting. And then I tuned into it after I was out of the situation with her, and I tuned into myself, and it was like, yeah, this is coming up for a reason. And I didn't really understand at the time why. And then I was going into ceremony with ayahuasca like that weekend. So, when that happens and those synchronicities happen, I was able to find out why. And I've talked about this, and that in my last ayahuasca experience, I'm at the place where the next part of my journey is to help melt my mind and allow my higher soul completely into this vessel. And the way that it showed up in ayahuasca was, I will get to this point where there's just pure light coming from me. And, I don't know why. I still feel like I'm on that path. I am human. I know that I'm here to do work, and I try to get out of the way and let the work happen. But I think that there is a piece of me that is like grasping tightly to who I have thought I was up until this point in my life. And, the vessel and the human part of us are so important. And every experience that I've had in ayahuasca, it's like there's my higher soul could not love this body and this person more than, I don't even know how you would express it, because it's deeper than any kind of love I've ever experienced. But they're always like, oh God, she is so precious. And like, I mean, I don't know how, that's literally what I'm doing, is like, I'm just touching every part of me and just being like so thankful for having this experience and this vessel in this time. So I know the love for who I am is there, and I know that it's very deep, but there's also a time that feels like it's coming to let it go. And, I've talked about this before too, is I don't know what that means, but what I was shown is that the mushrooms are coming in to help release that grasp of reality, let's say, that I have left in me. And reality meaning what? Of the three-dimensional world, of the everyday things that we all go through. I'm not exactly sure, but I that's what I was shown, and that I just needed to trust that the flow of energy was happening as it was supposed to, and that, maybe my mind wouldn't understand this. And what I also have noticed is that when the ego is being called out to release, it gets really staunch in its position, and a lot of people get really fearful of plant medicines because of that, because it's literally the death of the ego, and it's letting go of everything that you believe this life to be. Now, I have let go of a lot of things, but I mean, we always have things that are lingering and, there. So I started microdosing. I think it's been 2 weeks now. And when I call this a microdose, I'm talking, it is like nothing. You don't feel anything other than I kind of liken it back to the flower essences. The vibration is changing inside, and it's so subtle that it's not even something that you can perceive and have a say, oh, this is how I felt, because it's not like that. Like, I feel kind of like it balances the masculine and the feminine in your body, which means that maybe it pushes up the feminine and pulls down the masculine ego, so that they're on a balanced plane, and that you can see and perceive things from a clear, balanced place, which then means, you start to appreciate the beauty in life and the beauty in nature. And it feels like a little bit more flow state versus mind state. So what I'm experiencing is that it's not like in any way a high. It's not like there is even I don't notice a day, because I take one, I'm doing 1.2 grams, no, sorry, 0.12 grams of a capsule on one day. And then I don't take anything until the off 2 days. And then the third day I'll take a capsule again. So it's taking that 0.12 grams every third day. So do I feel any different on the days that I've taken it versus the days I don't? Not yet. In the beginning, I noticed I was very agitated, like in that case of my friend and his wife. We had that conversation on a day that I had taken one. And I was very agitated. I got agitated very early in the conversation, and was using a lot of my biases towards his wife, because I've been involved with their history, and I know what's going on with them and their own marital issues, but I only know his perspective of them. So I was taking his perspective of her and kind of bringing it forward to this moment and saying well, from what you've told me about her in the past, I don't think this is for her, right? Again, judging the situation. And anyways, that day was the day that I had microdose, and I have heard that if you are on an on day, that you want to keep everything pretty neutral and try to stay in the higher states of yourself. Well, I haven't had a problem with that, but letting that energy and that history of that energy come into my presence, it was like I couldn't hold back my judgments. I couldn't. Normally I'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. I wouldn't have to have such a strong opinion right at that moment. But it was like I couldn't hold that back. And then it was like verbal diarrhea. And I think that the microdosing is kind of like all the times that you try to suppress what you're really feeling, it's not possible, because you are now in this balanced state that is like your vibration speaks your truth, which even if that truth is of low vibration and it's something that needs to be energy that needs to be released, which in my case, that's what it was, it's coming out and it's going to be dealt with in this moment. You're not going to hide it and talk about it later. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And That's the only negative thing. I mean, and can we really say that's a negative? No, because I was able to get through that in my own ego and have the conversation with him and make him and have him see the vulnerable side of me, or the side of my shadows that are still lingering, And I think that's a beautiful thing. And thankfully he's able to hold the space and, wasn't in any way judgmental back to me, which is amazing. But we have these things that we can continually bury, and it could just be like, oh, look what that girl is wearing, or I can't believe she said that. All of those things that we suppress are all holding space in your body. And I feel like the mushrooms are just bringing you back to this place of, nope, it's not, you don't have room for that. So let's just get it out on the table and deal with it now. Other than that, I haven't really had any extreme experiences. It just feels like more allowing what is to be what it is, and observing. And I feel like I am observing more in that way, and kind of taking the step back of like needing to know. For example, in this week I was going to talk about something completely different, and I hope to do that episode next week because I think it's really cool and I'm excited about it, but there's a reason, which I'll explain why it's got pushed. And, normally I would be like, oh, what's meant to come forward then? And really, I feel kind of more lackadaisical about it, and kind of like just like allowing what is to be. And so I know that in this part of my journey, my higher soul's goal is that I start to see the difference between my ego state versus my flow or higher self state, and get to the point where I know where I'm at. Like how I said in the beginning, now I know when I'm in my own energy and when I'm not. It's kind of the same thing of knowing, are you in flow with who you really are and who you are here to be, or is this your ego taking over in this situation? So I think that's a positive. And I also am feeling like, again, grateful for these teachers that I am grateful for, but also knowing that when each one of these have come into my life, I create room for them, and I don't do anything else while I'm communing with them. And I think there is, and I've had conversations with other people that they mix different substances, and I'm not judging because I think everybody has to do what they need to do to get through their day and all of that. But what I'm finding is that when I'm clear and communing with just that one thing, then I know it's talking to me and I can feel the work that it's doing on me. Versus if I, let's say, if I am taking the microdose and then I'm doing Hape, who's the bigger teacher? Who's the teacher that is actually calling me versus my mind needing this, And I'm trying to really create the space for, if you came to me and you want to be in commune with me at this part of my journey, what are we working on, and what do you want to show me? And it's kind of like how I was saying last week, is that opening up all of your senses to when, in that case, a stone winks at you or wants to talk to you. Why is it? And really paying close attention and giving it the space that it needs so that it can share that wisdom with you. And I feel like that is the gift of each of these substances for me. Now, even I think last week, I had some friends that were going to go and experience 5-MeO-DMT, which, if you guys have been with me on this journey from the beginning, it was the first experience that I had with any kind of medicine, which is crazy. And in hindsight, I'm like, I don't know how that happened, but obviously it was calling me back then. So I wanted to go and help hold space for their experiences. And like, I think a few days before, one of my friends was like, oh, you're going to do it too. And I was like, I don't feel it. I don't think it's calling me, but we'll see. But I'm not feeling that. And then we got there, and our medicine man also was like, oh yeah, it's time for you. Cause it had been over a year since I last had done 5-MeO-DMT or Bufo. But being there, being in the presence of this energy, no, it wasn't calling me. And see, that's what I want to talk about, is like, you really need to know, is it calling you, or is your mind calling you to it from curiosity place? Because the curiosity, what is that saying? The curiosity killed the cat. It's not calling you if it's coming from your mind space, and it's stopping. And even though, yes, I was getting these invitations, oh yeah, you should do this, and it was there, and obviously I was there for a reason, but for me, I felt like it was there to hold space for my friends. It wasn't calling me, and I could hear it wasn't calling me. So that's what I'm saying, is like really getting to the place of tuning into that vibration that you're putting out and emitting, and then allowing them to come to you, is the biggest gift that you can really give yourself, because then it's the true gift of knowing that your soul is ready to receive what that medicine is. Now, it's hard because like people are constantly talking about these things and wanting to educate and wanting to share experiences, which, I also have done, because it's like such great experiences. But then it's like taking that step back and saying like, am I ready for this part of myself? And knowing that when it's time, it will come. Like, and I know people say that, and it's frustrating if you really want the experiences, but know that if you want the experiences, it's not time. Because I've never gone into anything thinking I want the experience. It feels like every single thing has come to me as it's time for you to experience this. And typically I don't really know, like in the case of the 5-MeO-DMT, I literally didn't know one thing about it. I had never heard of it. I had never tried anything before. And I was just, okay, I'm in this situation, and I trusted my healer, and I trusted that she wouldn't put me in a situation that wasn't calling me. And at that point, I didn't know how to hear from myself, right? But in hindsight, I know that it was calling me, and it was the perfect time for it. And I just feel like, can we get to the place of really tuning into the senses and allowing those senses to guide us to what is next on the journey of this awakening? And also, I also want to talk about, on a level of connectedness, let's say if there was a level meter, I was thinking about this today. I would say, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably at like a 7 to 8 of how connected I am to my higher self. When I'm in the ceremonies with ayahuasca, it has always felt like it's a playtime, and it feels like like almost like shedding the skin of this life and just being me, like what I perceive who I really am at a core. And it feels playful, and it feels like it's a place that I'm able to kind of shed the heaviness or the density of this life and feel free back into space, into soul realm, I guess. And they have, and I say they because it feels like there are many, my higher soul, and then there are others. And, I think that encompasses my past lives. But they've showed me that this is a place for me to really connect with myself and have fun. Because I tend to be very serious, and I don't loosen up a lot. So I have this knowing that, what Spirit is asking of me now is that, how do I incorporate that playfulness back into this vessel, right? And that's why I believe the mushrooms came in, is to just gradually start to allow it to live full time inside of me. And then so the reason I bring up the scale is that I think we're always learning, always growing, always curious about how others view our situation. And in that, I definitely have readings from time to time. And I had one this past week with S.A. Smith, who her Instagram is called The Girl in the Universe. And she typically monitors the Schumann resonance, and that's why I follow her. But she also is an intuitive, and she she gives sessions. So I had signed up again months ago, and I love that. I love that it's always like this random day that shows up in your calendar that you're like, oh, it. And I kind of like, I have another one scheduled, I think in September, and it feels like, not with her, with another reader, but it feels like having these check-ins, you know, and for me, in my experience, it's been nice because it's like a confirmation of all the things that you already know, but you like having the outside confirmation. And so I was able to ask her about, why are all these plant medicines coming, you know, and I already kind of knew. I already knew that they were here to help me with all of these things. But yeah, she said, like, try not to have judgment about it. You're obviously not abusing anything, but they are here to help you. And this is exactly what your soul wants you to do. And you're on track. You're hearing them, you know. And I already know that because I've never looked for any kind of, I don't know, like disconnect from this reality. Even if it's been hard, I haven't disconnected from it. So, yeah, it was nice to have that reflected back. She also mentioned that the reason that the mushrooms came in, it's funny how she brought it up. She said, are you able to carry the frequency of your higher self outside of ceremony yet? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm working on. And she was like, yeah, because you have, I think she said 2.5 to 3 weeks that it will be fully embodied. And then I was like, oh, that's why the mushrooms came in. I needed that like extra balancing to allow it and me to fully embody. And, you know, again, no judgment, because I think these are tools. I think that they are like ancient tools that are here to help us. And I'm trying to just stay in that mind frame. But knowing that I have such a short period of full embodiment into this vessel, no wonder it came, you know, and I'm fine knowing that. You know, she also confirmed that I don't have spirit guides, which I already knew that. And it's funny because I thought, and I've said this, I think that we create the spirit guide as it's like an avatar that our mind creates to have these conversations with, but they're just a mirror of us, like they are us. And I told her that, and she said, well, the way that I experience it is the spirit guides are on the lower dimensions, meaning they're higher than the third dimension, but they usually live between fourth, fifth, sixth. And you're already connecting directly to your higher self. So when spirit guides are coming in and guiding, it's like they are here as allies to help you connect to your higher self, but they are just projections of your higher self to have you have someone to commune with. And so, yeah, that was another confirmation. Again, I already knew that. And then the other thing she brought up is she uses terminology that's different than mine. And you guys know, and I've talked about this, I'm a walk-in soul. It happened in December. And it's so funny because the person that helped me get to the place of knowing that I was a walk-in soul, she disappeared. I don't know if she actually exists. And if you're listening to this, I would love to hear from you because I have reached out to her again. And I wonder now, like, did she come in just to spark that knowing in me? Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so she brought up that I already was a crystalline being and that I have already done most of my transitional work, which typically in her language means that as these energies are rolling in, you know, some people really struggle with them. I typically don't. I feel okay and I feel good. I've had a lot of issues with my ears. I don't know if I've talked about that on this. But yeah, she said that they're trying to talk to me verbally now. Where I get messages, it feels telepathically. I've had issues like where my ears feel like they're just clogged and itchy. And I don't know. I've tried everything. I've tried like drops, and then some friends recommended the wax ear burning, and so I've tried that, and I still struggle with it, but it's because, yeah, it's just another area that I need to work on. And kind of, again, we go back to the senses that we talked about last week. And it's, yeah, like, can you really focus in on one sense, like the ear, and really allow it to hear? After I did the first coning, I started hearing a humming, like a humming song in this ear. It's always been this year that is the more itchy. So yeah, she says that they are trying to talk to me now. And, you know, in all of these readings that we can get, always like feel like what rings true, because the things that you already know that she's reflecting back to you is like confirmation. And then know if it doesn't feel like it's right. So like her bringing up this crystalline body, it doesn't feel off. It's just this different terminology than what I would know myself to be. I feel like I am aligned with my higher self, but I'm still working on getting it into this vessel. But I don't know that I would call it crystalline. You know, that's not my term. So, yeah, I think that it happened when I became a walk-in soul. I think that what I'm here to do is going to be much greater than what this person knows about. Because if I am saying that and then my mind is like, we have no idea. And that's okay. You know, it's like not feeling like comparing ourselves to other people and saying like, well, I need to know now. If I have this feeling that I need to do something, why can't I be where that person is? Or comparing, because there's so many people to compare ourselves against that it's not your journey. And literally, it's not my journey. My journey is to focus on every single day in this present moment and allow what is. Like, so when a plant medicine comes into your thread, you see it for what it is. Not like your mind's not dissecting it from all different angles. You are present, and then you can feel into, is this really calling me? So yeah, this has been just a ramble and just a chat. And you know, always I thank you guys for being here. We definitely still are doing the Energy Tribe chats on Friday at 2:30 Pacific time. And you know, the community there is just amazing. I feel like I learned so much, and I say this every week, but honestly, like, it just blows my mind how great they are, and almost like how they know more than me, you know. Like, I don't study, I mean, I feel like I'm studying all the time, but you know, this idea of awakening, there's so many things. And I just love the energy of having, like, certain people are way more into the dream state and astral projection, and I don't know a lot about that. I don't remember most of my dreams, so it's just so great to hear these conversations and to kind of tap into the wellspring of each one. And I just feel so lucky to be a part of that. So as you guys know, we would love to have you, and yeah, so I hope to see you there.